Alright parents, this is Miss Branham. I'm going to show you how to use bar models to help your kids visualize and solve problems. So here's our first problem we're going to do. Mr. B and Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Benson and Mr. McKenzie, sometimes we'll just say the first letter of their name to make it friendlier. We don't want our kids to struggle with reading. We just need them to understand the problem. So Mr. B and Mr. M have some money altogether. The first time your students read through a problem, don't worry about the numbers. We want to understand and comprehend the situation before we think about math. Mr. B's share is twice as much as Mr. M's. And our questions that we're trying to answer: how much is Mr. M's share? How much is Mr. B's share? If Mr. B spends some money on books, how much money does he have left? So we want to take them back to the original problem and just figure out what they know so that they can find an easy entry point to help them solve. So Mr. B and Mr. M have some money all together. And I would ask them, can you picture that in your head? Yes, we've got two different people, and we know that their total amount is this number right here. Then Mr. B's share is twice as much as Mr. M. So we know that Mr. B has more money. How much more? Twice as much. And I would say, can you draw a picture of that? We have been doing things like this in daily review. They have learned how to do bar models that represent situations like this since 3rd grade. So I'm going to turn off the problem for a second so that you can see the math part of it. So we're going to show this. Mr. B and Mr. M. Mr. B and Mr. M are two people, and we know Mr. B has twice as much. So we're going to give Mr. B 2 equal parts, and Mr. M will have 1 of these equal parts. And then we're going to put what other information we know. That's all we know from that one sentence. The first sentence told us that their total, altogether, they have 4,686. So we're going to show that by using a bracket. This bracket will tell me that the total altogether is 4,686. Okay, I'm going to close this up again so you can see all the math that we're about to do. So this is all the information that they are given. So then they have to figure out what they know from here. Well, they know that this is a comparison, yes, but it's also an equal parts bar model. This box is equal to this box, which is equal to this box. They're all the same. And they know that if they have equal groups and they have a total, which we do have, 4,686, they can divide to find how much should be in each one of these boxes. And that's what they would do next. So I would encourage them as they do this to still do the picture that I've shown in the previous video. But for time's sake, I'm just going to do the algorithm part of it. So 4,686 is their total. And we're going to do our place value lines, your ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands places. And we are dividing it into 1, 2, 3 equal groups. So our divisor is 3. And with their picture, they would set this up and then show 3 equal groups. So we would start with our thousands place. We've got 4 thousands, and we're going to share them equally into 3 different groups. So we can skip count by 3s to figure out how much should go in each group. 3. The next one would be 6, but I only have 4, so there should be 1,000 in each group. 3 groups of 1,000 is 3,000, so we would subtract our 3,000 because that's how many they just shared into their groups, which should be on their picture. When they subtract, they have 1,686 left to share. So then they would move to their hundreds place. This 1,000 did not get used in the thousands place, so it gets regrouped to the hundreds place. So there are 10 hundreds and 1,000, which now gives us 16 hundreds to share equally into our 3 different groups. So I would again encourage them to skip count by 3s if they don't know their multiplication facts. That would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I can't go to 18 because I've only got 16 to share. So there should be 5 hundreds in each one of my groups. Our next step would be to subtract what they just divided. They just shared 3 groups of 500s. 3 groups of 5 is 15. So 3 groups of 500s is 1,500s, which has a value of 1,500. And when they subtract that, they've now got 186 left. They move on to the tens place. Again, this 100 didn't get used in the hundreds place, so we regroup it. There are 10 tens in 100, and when we regroup, we have 18 tens to share equally into our 3 groups. So again, they would skip count by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. There are 6 in each group. And 3 groups of 6 tens is 18 tens, which is 180. And when they subtract now, they're down to 6 ones in the ones place, which they would share equally into their 3 groups. 6 divided by 3, or they could skip count, 3, 6. There should be 2 in each group. So 3 groups of 2 ones is 6 ones. They have a remainder of 0. So what this tells us is that this box is 1,562. This box, I would let them write in the boxes because it's going to get confusing if they don't, when they have multiple boxes like this. And each one of those has the same value, which is why we were able to divide. So then let's go back to our questions. How much does Mr. McKenzie share? Well, this picture has shown us that this box represents Mr. McKenzie's share, and he has $1,562. Then the next one says, what is Mr. Benson's share? And over here we've got Mr. Benson's share. He's got 2 groups of 1,562. The students know that they could use repeated addition, add this plus this, or simple multiplication, 1,562, and we have 2 groups of that number, so we could multiply. 2 times 2 ones is 4. 2 times 6 tens is 12 tens, which is 120. 2 times 5 hundreds is 10 hundreds, plus 1 more is 11 hundreds, which is 1,100. 2 times 1,000 is 2,000, plus 1 more is 3,000. So that means Mr. Benson's share would be 3,124. Then we're on to the last part. If Mr. Benson spends $500 on books, how much money does he have left? I would lead the discussion on what does it mean to spend money. If I have a total, if I have some money and I spend some, am I getting more or am I losing that money that I spent? The kids would know that when you spend money, you're giving it away to get something else. So a bar model, if your students don't automatically know to subtract, you can easily set this up with them. We know that Mr. Benson's total is 3,124, and he's going to spend part of this, not the whole thing, so we break it apart, and he's going to spend 500. We're missing the part. And your students have learned, if they've done Math in Focus, that when you're missing a part, they will subtract. So 3,000, I'm running out of room, 124 minus 500 would give us 4 ones, regroup, 2,624 is how much Mr. Benson has left. And I know this is a lot of work and it's a lot of thinking, but we are encouraging our kids to be problem solvers through math. And these visuals, these bar models that you may not understand are going to help them visualize that. So please let them use that if they've learned it in class, and we're going to be practicing it a lot more. So I hope this helps. I'll be adding more videos as we go. Thanks.